Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. Welcome back. It's Monday morning, and this is the Daily Medicine Transmission for May 3rd, 2021. We are now in May. We've been in May over the weekend. If you checked out the astrology report, the weekly astrology report that is up on YouTube, it's on BitChute, it's on Subscribestar, and it talks about this last lunar quarter and Beltane and all the other goodies that are going along with this last quarter of this lunar cycle that started with the new moon in Aries. So we have a lot going on today, a lot going on, some major transitions. So we're going to get all into that. So welcome back. If you're a subscriber to this channel, if you're supporting this channel in any way, if you are a supporter on Subscribestar, thank you so much. You have no idea how much it actually supports this work. So thank you. And if you're new here, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. If you find this information inspiring, helpful in any way that you interact with this content, it actually does support the channel when you like, when you comment, when you subscribe, right? When you even share the content, it actually makes an impact on the algorithm that disseminates this information. So thank you for stopping by and welcome. So let's get right into it. So today is the third quarter moon squaring the sun along with Saturn. So did you take the guidance over the weekend to really take a step back, to go within, to slow way down? I know I did. I really had no choice. And in my communications with other people that I'm close to, that I work with in various ways, it was pretty clear that that was exactly what needed to be happening. I was asleep. I was in bed and asleep before 8 o'clock last night, the weekend, and napped all day on Sunday. And as much as it can seem like a luxury in some ways to do that, it's actually that stillness, that solitude is the opposite of apathy and doing nothing. In fact, you are giving your body and your energetic fields an opportunity to recharge, to rest. And if you are the type of person maybe that would have not taken that opportunity, the universe most assuredly gave you that opportunity through some other way. And this is usually how it goes. And it's not to say that you're being punished in any way, or you are being forced into situations that you don't want to be in. But it was really imperative. And that is still moving through today as well. But things are going to shift very rapidly today, and it's going to require a certain amount of trust in the natural processes that are unfolding with all of the Taurus stellium, especially with the sun in Taurus just before Beltane. And I talked a lot about Beltane in the weekly astrology report. The title of that is The Seed Cracks Open, because that is what Beltane symbolically represents. It is the midpoint between the equinox and the solstice, and in a growing cycle, a seasonal growing cycle, symbolically, it is that moment where the seed pops open, cracks open, and we lose a part of ourselves that we, up until that point, had believed was everything, right? But really what it was releasing all of the potential for the growth that the seed encapsulates in terms of the Aries archetype. And that was the new moon, was in Aries, that we hold the potential to create within us. And that also is what the seed represents. All of the potential for this life is encapsulated in the seed. And this new moon gave us an opportunity to each come into communion with that idea, with that concept, and that reality within us. And as we're coming into this last week, now we're really going to face a lot of transitions and shifts that are going to really put that intention to the test, right? The last week of the lunar cycle is usually fairly difficult, right? We have a crisis in awareness or crisis in consciousness with the sun squaring the third quarter moon, Taurus and Aquarius. So we have a fixed square today, which we'll talk about. And the moon then starts losing her light. She is on the other end of her quarter phase, and so the waning gibbous, right? The moon is losing light over the course of the days leading up to the next new moon. So the balsamic phase of the moon is not a time we want to be making a lot of decisions or taking a lot of action, because it requires more it requires us to get more still. It requires us to be able to hone in on our deeper intuitive nature as the moon gets darker, because it's not as easily reflected back to us with this, the light of the sun as a full moon usually is. And so it's important that we're taking this time, and over the weekend, hopefully we took the time and listened to our bodies, listened to our energy, our energetic fields, our energetic potential, and took some time away, whatever that means for us, whatever activities or lack of activities that allow us to come into communion with nature, with ourselves, to really attune to the natural rhythm. It's really important. Asteroid Ceres, representing the goddess of the grain and agriculture and the cycles of growth and nourishment and the contraction into ourselves and under the surface that is also part of the process of growth. She's in the last degree, or 29 degrees of Aries, not quite the last degree, 29 degrees of Aries. And this is the attunement to the natural cycles, the music of the spheres, right? And so it's important that we, again, are allowing ourselves to tap into this resonance and this very natural cycle that Taurus represents. Because for as much as we're going to see, the moon is in Aquarius. And so at the same time, we are quantum leaping, right? We are moving through time. We are outside of the material realm when we get into Aquarius. And so while we may emotionally and intuitively, even subconsciously, feel ourselves being pulled through this tunnel, right? This wormhole into a new reality, we are still very firmly planted in our awareness, in our expression with the sun, with Venus, still our sensitivity to all of this material reality and pulling towards us, magnifying and attracting towards us what it is that allows us to feel good, what's valuable to us. Even our mind, with Mercury in the very last degrees of Taurus in a square to Jupiter today. It's important that we are allowing ourselves the ability to span both of these areas. And it's not easy. And this is why the messages for so much of last week were leading us to start to wind down, take the time, take the space to really gather our resources. Because now, as we come into this moment and past this third quarter square today, which happens at 3:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are, that's in a square to Saturn in Aquarius, right? The moon will conjunct Saturn and square the sun. Mercury is moving into its home sign of Gemini today, okay, after the square. So once that happens, the mind is really now going to start turning on. The ideas are going to start flowing. Communication is going to start being way more mobile, right? It's going to start happening more often, and the information is going to start flowing. And Mercury is not only our mind and the realm of our mind and data and information, but it's magic, right? It's the magic of manifestation. And you need both aspects of the sun and, not the sun. You need the aspects of the magician and the priestess in order to really manifest something into real time. And I'm going to talk a lot about that at the end of the month in another presentation and around the Orion starseed mission, because that's coming through really, really strongly now. And understanding the history of Orion and Sirius as well is going to be really important to understanding how we are able to create and manifest through these archetypes. Anyway, we still are coming out of this period of rest and reflection with the moon, especially the moon in Capricorn. And today is going to be that, like I said, it's going to test where is our awareness, where is our conscious attention, and they're going to be at cross purposes, right? This is square angles. You just got to lean into them and feel the discomfort of them in order to learn something. It's not that they're completely in opposition, but they are at cross purposes. They are different trajectories, and a fixed square like this, it can be very intense, right? Because there's not a lot of malleability with these energies. They're not very flexible. They're very much in the element that they're in, and it takes a lot to move them around. And so we are going to be right on the cusp here of Beltane that is happening from the 4th into the 5th of May. Oh, wow. It's going to be really quite remarkable. And this last degree where, 13 to 14 degrees where the sun is in a square to the moon. And we're just going to look at the chart here. Why don't we just get into the chart as we look at this? Because that way, now I totally blew it. I had everything queued up. Oh, there it is. And I guess it's not so bad. And we have it all queued up. I'm just looking at my head right here. Oh, it's totally Monday. Okay, it's totally Monday, and I feel like I've slept through the entire weekend, and I am really still very out of it. I am in this very ungrounded, partially ungrounded space, which is really encompasses how this is going to be going today. Because with Aquarius, we really are outside of the realm of time and space, connecting to something way more substantial, but also so palatable at the same time, right? Capricorn is an earth element and represents the physical, institutionalized nature of our reality. And once we step into Aquarius, that is something beyond that, but still just as real, if not more real. So there is, if you're feeling like you got one foot in reality, but boy, you have another foot in some other dimension, I feel like that's totally normal right now. And that's going to define a lot of this square energy, and it's okay to feel both of those places. And in fact, we should probably be comfortable with that, so that when they do come into that square angle with each other, we are prepared for where it may, the trajectory it may send us on when they finally collide with each other. And when Mercury comes into Gemini, that's going to release that manifestation power, that the realm of our mind and the ideas that we can work with are going to be released when Mercury comes into Gemini. And then it's really going to be, things are going to move a lot more swiftly. And it'll be interesting to see the intuitive messages, because today is still preparing for that moment. We're not going to really start moving until tomorrow into the 5th of Beltane, right? Because we still have to crack open the seed and move forward from that position. And that can be very detrimental if we have not acknowledged that the seed was always a temporary cover, right? The seed was always a temporary boundary holding all of the potential until it was ready to come out. And it's certainly now going to be ready to come out. So here we are looking at the 3rd. Like I said, the moon is in Aquarius and is going to come into a conjunction with Saturn. Saturn is making it pretty unavoidable at this point that we are going to bypass some sort of natural evolution and really push past some obstacles in order to evolve very quickly. And this is something that Saturn has been sitting at this degree now for a while and has been really setting the stage, giving us all of it's been crystallizing this for us. So before that happens, though, we see that the moon is going to come into a sextile with Chiron today at 11 degrees. And, there is a strong pull to really, centralize our consciousness. And there's been a lot of ego related to that, because it's naturally ego with Aries, and then Chiron coming in and really pushing on that vulnerability, and certainly really inflaming in a lot of ways, like some guilt and some shame around that, as if that is something that we shouldn't have. And that's been one of the biggest traps I've seen in the modern New Age movement, and this spiritual New Age movement, which is, and Matt Kahn talks about this a lot, and I really appreciate his perspective about it, that the ego is not something that we can get rid of or that we can just like push off to the side. And that's very much part of the Aries archetype, is the ego. And so when that seed does crack open, it will feel like an ego death in some ways. But at the same time, this is this moment we can go back to this centralizing piece that the ego is able to play for us, because otherwise we're just being led around by unconscious and instinctual reactions, where the ego is really there to protect us, and it's really there to give us some, a sense of self, right? I mean, we can't really go forward through the rest of the chart and through our whole process as an individuating personality in this lifetime without some measure of a centralizing subjective experience. So the moon in Aquarius in this sextile to Chiron is will give us this emotional connection in this moment to realize that we are all exactly where we need to be, and to not feel guilty or any ashamed to have a subjective experience of self, and to use your ego for what it's intended, right? Is to centralize our subjective experience and give it some kind of form. And that's going to be difficult when, of course, the seed point of Beltane, right, the expression of ourselves through the sun, is going to break open. So remember that we're all exactly where we need to be, and to also realize that that is not the end of us. That is really truly the beginning of us when that seed opens and that little sprout starts to go up through the soil. So where else are we at today? So we're going to have this square, obviously. Oh, the dog is like chewing on my shoes. Mercury is going to square, is already come into a square, actually. If we go back a little further, Mercury is in a square to Jupiter today, in another one of these fixed squares between Taurus and Aquarius. Just really, these are really hard squares, I think, just because they're fixed energies. One is very much about the quantum leap and the Aquarian nature that is beyond the natural unfolding, and then we have all this stellium energy, which also means that the moon is certainly going to be in a square to Uranus at the same time that it is in a sextile to Chiron. And so we might all feel like we're, exactly where we need to be, and we get this intuitive hit that everything is going to be okay, right? And in a square to Uranus, it's just like, well, it's still testing us in terms of, well, we still have to cultivate our own reality. We still have to cultivate the soil and be responsible for the fertility of what we have to grow. And this is like kind of this last little bit here of, it's okay to take a step back from all of that. You don't have to water the garden every single day if there is natural means of moisture, right? If it rains, you can take a step back and not have to like be hyper vigilant about it. And again, everything is where it needs to be today. And so, but the moon squaring Uranus, certainly some sort of emotional, frustration there as well. So, but like I was saying, Mercury in this square to Jupiter, before Mercury goes into Gemini today, there's understanding here that, you need to have two sides of a situation to really fully understand it. And the Sabian symbol for where Mercury is the cobbler, working on a set of shoes, right? There's two shoes and they represent understanding, right? That you are wearing some sort of covering on your feet, and it represents symbolically understanding. And you have two of them, which means that you have to be able to see both sides of a situation in order to truly understand it. The square here, and this is in a very material way, right? This is in a very material, real world, resource-based type of way that Mercury is engaged with, whereas Jupiter in Aquarius really expanding on and advocating for and representing in a lot of ways our emergence out of this chrysalis. So that's not based in material reality necessarily with Aquarius. So this is also something that is a struggle today. Another Taurus Aquarius square that's happening today. And like I said, the sun and the sun and Saturn, so much frustration about this as well, because we want to just be natural. We don't want to maybe do more than we can. We kind of want to like play a little bit. And I think we should do that. And the square to Saturn that is just like, well, we're still quantum leaping. And we'll find that being able to engage both of these aspects at the same time, and allow the moon aspect meeting Saturn to give it some form and give it some crystallization is really going to help when it comes to the tension of all of these squares today. The moon is going to come around and trine the North Node as well, and this is going to be a moment again where these two aspects are really going to support each other, where we are headed collectively, where we're being pulled collectively, which is to completely give up our past in order to move into the future, to demand our freedom from a situation that had been enslaving us. That is really what that's degree of the North Node, 11 to 12 degrees. And so the moon in Aquarius at this degree is showing the natural progression of states of consciousness. Everybody is one in the eyes of God. Everybody is divine. But there's also a staircase where everybody is on their own journey and they're all at different positions. And so again, allowing ourselves emotionally and intuitively and maybe even subconsciously to really just, sink into this idea that everything is where it needs to be. Everybody is where they are meant to be. That doesn't take away from the value of each of us at the most high level, but we also are all on this journey. And what does the North Node represent? It is where we are being pulled so our soul will evolve. And so realizing that we're all in a different place on this journey together is part of the supporting the North Node, which is drawing us up the staircase in order for each of our souls to evolve. Everybody has a different journey that they're on for their own evolution. And when you know your chart, then you can see where these aspects are at play, what area of your life they are at play, and how they are maybe aspecting other parts of your chart as well. And, this is a very Orion aspect. Aquarius is very well aspected to the Orion starseed nature. So this right here, we can bring in that archetype of the Orion starseed to help with this aspect. And then we have Mercury coming into Gemini today. We have the moon that's going to square the sun at the same time that it is in a conjunction with Saturn. And we also have, that's about it. So you can see that by the end of the day, things are about to break loose, right? They're about to break loose on some level. And tomorrow we will talk about Beltane a little bit more. But let's look now at the reading for today, because I think that we're going to see here how wonderful it's going to be in some ways. In some ways, always a challenge. Okay, guys, so here's our reading for today. It's not the clearest because the lighting of where I'm at right now is not awesome in terms of photography, but as usual, we'll get to look at each image up close and personal and really have a relationship with it visually and see, because that's really what the work of the tarot and any oracle cards, any symbol, any archetype really is meant to do, which is why they're visual, right? It's meant to bring out our own guidance through the use of these symbols, because the idea is that they're all embedded in the human psyche. That's what Jung really came to realize, is that the archetypes cross-culturally, cross-history, they all represent these very common experiences of the human journey. And then, of course, Joseph Campbell he built off of this idea through the hero's journey, showing that there's the same type of progression archetypally, and again, in all kinds of myths, cross-culturally, across history. So let's look at all of these aspects one piece at a time. Okay, so first we have, coming into the moment, we have the Three of Wands, right? The virtue, the sun in Aries, the second decan of Aries. And what's in the second decan? Well, it's Chiron. Chiron is now at 10 to 11 degrees of Aries. So virtue, let me get my notes. I was wondering what I was missing here. I have to put everything away when I leave a room because these dogs are really, they'll just destroy anything if it's left unattended in order to get attention. It's a very interesting dynamic that certain dogs have. So let's see here. So the Three of Wands, it's reversed. So when we have, and there's a lot of threes and there's a lot of eights in this reading, okay? So there is a lot of very stable, structurally balanced energy, and there's also a lot of divine intervention energy as well. And you can see that a lot of this is really about, on the one hand, being stable and secure within ourselves and to find some stability, and at the same time, which is also allowing for this divine intervention to support us as we are moving through these processes. So when the Three of Wands reversed, now upright, virtue, right? This is that first real recognition of a project or creation in effect. You had the Two of Wands, which was the dominion of all of our creative energy, our desire, and now the virtue. It's not about us being virtuous, but it's about expressing what is the virtue within us through some sort of project, creation, transformation. Now, when it's reversed, as we see in this causal factor, number 3 is the number of synthesis and harmony. So you can already see when number 3 is, having it reversed, there is something off about our synthesis and harmony coming into this moment. Now, remember, the horizontal axis is the horizontal is the causal relationship, the cause and effect, the linear relationship that is happening. I wouldn't say necessarily completely outside of us, but it's what we're interacting with energetically. And then we have our vertical axis, which is our energetic pole and our power, right? And how we interact with these things is going to give us some measure of outcome here. So there's a power, the fire understands its responsibility when you have the Three of Wands. This is what virtue really means. You understand your responsibility for what you're creating, and you have a synthesis of your creative potential to give you some basis to see that it's supported, that it's harmonious. Now, when it's reversed like this, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Moodiness, overestimation, okay? Conceitedness, rudeness. This is the virtue signaling, right? This is all part of it too. Insolence. Now, this is important because this comes up in the next card too. Insolence, treachery. So this causal factor coming into the moment is a lot of conceited overestimation. This not necessarily us being this like collectively, and this might not apply to you, but this is the collective causal factor of this overestimation and this conceitedness and this insolence, right? The virtue signaling. You're not understanding when you have this. This is not an understanding of responsibility. In fact, this is an overestimation of our potential. And rather than synthesis and harmony, it's off. It's not virtuous at all. It's virtue signaling, right? This is a very basic read of this type of energy. So coming into the moment, there is something off. There is a lack of responsibility for what is being created on a collective level, in terms of a causal nature here. So coming into the moment, we have this, and at the heart of the matter here, we have the Eight of Wands reversed. So we've been seeing this card a lot, and now when it's reversed at the heart of the moment, right, the axis of the cause and effect linear relationship and our own power, and the swiftness, it's still swift, Mercury and Sagittarius, this Eight of Wands. Now we have a 3, and now we have an 8, which is, again, divine intervention. This is very rash when it is reversed like this, and it's thoughtless. And again, insolent, right? It is, and jealousy too. So there is this idea that there isn't synthesis and harmony in terms of what we're creating and our potential for creation. In fact, it is, there is insolence and there's conceitedness, and it brings us into this moment now, a swift realization about how that is not working for us, and it can lead to thoughtlessness. But I feel like that ultimately this is a swift kick in the ass, right? I mean, when it's reversed, it is not a very well received swift realization necessarily, and it can be rash and it can be thoughtless. And with this Three of Wands also reversed coming into the moment, hitting the heart of the moment here, this does feel like a swift kick in the ass that is not very well received, but is absolutely necessary on some level. So when let's see here. Now here we have another 8, which I think is awesome. Where did you go? 8 of Keys. The Master Artisan. So now we're looking at where we are at energetically, where our subconscious has the potential to be rooted, where we are gathering our power personally from. This 8 of Keys. Now we have another 8, the Master Artisan. This is an individual that has not only honed all of their skills, but is now teaching other people, sharing what they have learned, giving back. Service to others based on what you and I and we have learned together. So we can draw our power from this place of being the master artisan. We've learned so much about how to manifest, how to putting the time. This is real time and effort. This is the keys is a material element here. This is the earth element. So it actually takes time, it actually takes effort. It actually takes skill, to and practice and honing your skills over time in order to become the master. So it's important that we are rooting, for those of you who are drawn to these messages, it's important that we are in fact gathering our personal power, rooting ourselves into this master artisan archetype, that we have done all of this work to master our own skill set. And now it's time for us to be able to hold that and give of that to others and teach them how to do it. Whatever it is, it's going to be different for everybody, but collectively, this is where we are drawing our personal power from. And then we move through the heart of the moment, which is that swift kick in the ass of awareness, right? The Mercury in Sagittarius. And we come to the Three of Roses. Oh, the loving elementals. Now, this is coming through really strongly with this third quarter square between the sun and the moon, which is that our conscious awareness, right? This crisis in consciousness of the sun and the moon that it represents. Part of it, especially where the sun is about just being willing to play, right? To connect more with natural, maybe almost unconscious elements, right? This child sitting by the water here is playing with the friends that are really the sprites and the fairies, the elementals, those that are only really visible to those who are still kept their innocence and their ability to play. And so our conscious awareness, where we are pulling our power down from in our consciousness, where we are giving our attention to as well, this Three of Roses, this is about going back to this childlike nature, right? And so part of the Eight of Keys in this master artisan is really rooting down into this very masterful role that we have, but as it moves up through is to take a position of innocence, of playfulness, of a childlike nature, so that we can interact with those forces. Mars just coming into Cancer, this degree of Cancer, 7 degrees Cancer, is about two nature spirits, in the moonlight. And obviously this is not moonlight, but it's the same idea that there are hidden forces that are not really hidden to those who let their vision relax and are more playful, more innocent, more childlike, and then we can interact with them. But this requires really drawing our power up of being a true master of our material reality. And as we come up through this very swift kick in the ass, I can't get over how much this feels like a swift kick in the ass of our awareness and our and action, right? The wand's energy does have this action attached to it. And then our awareness here is, being innocent about it, being childlike about it, realizing that we can commune with the underlying spiritual nature of everything that's happening if only we release all of the seriousness. But this does come from rooting into this mastery and drawing our power from here. This is very interesting because what to expect out of all of this is the star card, number 17, right? The star card, the Aquarian card. And we do have the moon in Aquarius. And specifically, we have Jupiter at the last degrees of Aquarius, which is what this really represents. Jupiter in Aquarius. So, God, the dogs are just like, they hate it. They hate that I'm not giving them attention. And so they do everything to try to draw me away. It's actually... Consider that. I think that's important. So the star card, right? Hope and trust, the guiding light that the chosen way is the right way, and living in the moment, right? And this is about cosmic coherence, being sensitive to cosmic coherence. Look at this card, this beautiful woman, right? That is bathing herself in starlight and also giving to the earth the starlight as well. It's a beautiful card, and it is about hope and trust and optimism and being very sensitive. Cosmic coherence is what the Aquarian archetype really represents, right? You are able to feel into the nature of reality that is something beyond what we know as material reality. This is what the Aquarian archetype, because love is what connects all of us. It connects everything. That is the glue that holds the universe together. And you really get that in Aquarius and Pisces, of course. Pisces is a much more direct experience. Aquarius is the collective third eye opening to this process. So this is beautiful, but this does require that we are rooting into our mastery, right? And that we are allowing our conscious awareness to be in this playful place. And then we will be able to shoot through this quantum tunnel, whatever it represents for us, and trust it and feel it and feel it very intimately that it is part of us, and trust this process. This is a really beautiful type of energy that's coming out of today. And then when Mercury moves into Gemini, it's like the possibilities are endless of what we can manifest. It's all about being in line with the energy that is going to manifest it. And then from there, it's up to us, our mastery, as the 8 of Keys represents. And 17 is 1 plus 7. So we have another 8, right? Another divine intervention. In fact, we have 3 8s now with this card numerologically, the 8 of Keys, the 8 of Wands, and then the Star card. So there's a lot of divine intervention that's really promising to show itself today, if only we are open to it and innocent enough to see it for what it is. Okay. Now, some guidance and some support as always. Number 1, the 7 of Forces, the balance, right? We have to balance ourselves energetically. We have to balance our ability to in terms of applying our knowledge, right? So we have the 8 of Keys as the master artisan. So you have to certainly accumulate all these skills, and then you have to be able to apply them and teach them. That is what the master artisan is really doing. And that is a very Libra thing. And you can see the scales of Libra in this card. The forces represent that it's an action. So there is an action that's behind this that has to do with balance and applying our knowledge to find balance. And how are we going to do that? This has come up again now. The music is essential to your healing and well-being, whether singing, listening to music, playing an instrument. And it's really when did you stop singing? We all have to find our own song, right? We all have our own song within us. And when we are able to do that and express it, then we're really able to be a master artisan. And so part of this balance here and being able to apply our knowledge is going to come from, being able to reconnect with our own song, with our vibratory signature in the universe, and being able to communicate it as well. That's also part of it. But the music and the acoustics that go along with singing, with chanting, with toning. Toning is so easy and is so incredibly powerful that it doesn't really take much other than getting past kind of the weirdness of like toning really loud, but it is incredibly powerful. So that's something else that you can do. If you're finding yourself out of balance and you want to get into your mastery, it's about the resonance. And we all have our own unique signature, which is what the sun represents, the blossoming of ourselves, that 5th house in the Leo. And this is part of, again, being a child, and having this childlike quality is what represents, singing our own song. And when we come into the Aquarian archetype, which is the opposite of Leo, for instance, when we all are singing our own song, that's when we are so much more powerful as a collective. But we all have to be in touch with our song. And this, again, the shamanic journeying is part of how to do this. So when it comes to the loving elementals, it says the cat, it's time to strike out on our own. You can see there's just one child here with all of the elementals. It does require that we stop really listening to other people express and tell us how we're supposed to be doing these things. Cats are also a very Lyran, and the feline are very Lyran aspect. And of course, this has come up so many times in the last few days of the solitude and working with this feline energy that are very solitary. So again, don't forget to strike out on your own and to be willing to look for your own song. Hold on one second here. Okay. And finally, as I can tell that this is the end of the line here for us, Archangel Michael, right? He's here to protect the children, and he's especially here to protect and be a channel of divine power for that child within us as well. So again, the trusting part of it. And remember that the North Node is coming into a conjunction. Now, it has station direct because the nodes, they kind of do this back and forth, this oscillation, kind of like Black Moon Lilith. When we look at the true Lilith and the true nodes, they oscillate and they go back and forth because there is a wobble on the axis of anything that is rotating on its axis. And so you get a natural wobble. And so it is moving away from fixed star Aldebaran, but Archangel Michael is Aldebaran. And this is success with integrity. So we can connect to this divine channel by trusting, right? Trusting the process, being open to this childlike nature, and knowing that this warrior, this spiritual warrior that Archangel Michael represents is here to support us. And if we open our heart, just like Archangel Michael has opened this flaming heart here, there is a lot of protection here. There's a lot of support, and there is divine support that is coming in if only we allow it to come in. And that, again, comes with the Lyran aspect and the cat that, gives us this sense of independence, right? Lyran starseeds, they are fiercely independent. They need, just like Andromedan starseeds, fiercely independent, but on a collective level, that they function together as a collective, but at the same time, they, how cats are. I mean, cats are, I am ready for you when I'm ready for you. And that is very much a Lyran aspect as well, because they have a trajectory of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish that doesn't always require input from people all the time. So, but it's really about going out on your own energetically, right? Being willing to not rely necessarily and exclusively on the feedback you're getting from other people, but being yourself open to the unseen forces, those nature spirits, you know, those elementals that are here to support us. And part of that is Michael. And Michael does support the children and protect the children and uplift the children, and will do so for that part of ourselves if we are open to it. So that's the transmission for today, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Everything you need is in the description box below. Website, if you're interested in booking a reading or energy work, all the social media aspects. Subscribestar link is there as well. There's exclusive content coming for the subscribers there. But if you want to support the channel, I have a goal in order to get equipment to raise the production value of this content. So you can check that out as well. And as always, I will be here tomorrow for the Daily Medicine transmission. You can also check out the astrology report for this week. That's also on YouTube and BitChute. I think that's enough for today, my friends. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget to initiate that childlike nature. Don't forget to what's the word I'm looking for? Don't forget to discover what your song is, because that's really how we're going to vibrate and resonate and manifest, right? Because there's Mercury coming in Gemini, manifestation, magic. If we want to manifest the world we want to be in, we each got to find our, be in tune, right? Where asteroid series is, be in tune, the universal rhythms. And when you can do that, then you find your song. You find your song. And then when everybody's singing and, expressing their own unique song, that's when we get the Aquarian nature that the star represents. So thanks, guys. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow.